You're listening to the new WCEG Network on WCE Talk Radio, or watch us on live on your smart TV, YouTube, and LinkedIn on the WCEG Network, or Facebook and Twitter, WCEG Talk Radio. Welcome to the Worldwide Community Empowerment Group, where we speak life into the community. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and on Instagram at WCEG Talk Radio and at WCEG Network. Last but not least, the topics and opinions are those of the show hosts and the guests, not WCEG Network. And thank you for your continued support. I'm Dr. Ronald Tolbert. I'm your host today. I'm the owner of Red Oak Animal Hospital. For the new listeners, just a little bit about myself. I've owned and operated Red Oak Animal Hospital since 1988. We serve generally most of South Fulton, Fayette, and Coweta counties. We practice large and small animal medicine and surgery. We have been operating basically through house calls on occasion, which we kind of give it up at the moment. We are in the office 6 days a week. And in addition, we have many clients that help us arrange certain things to help with the community. So we also have a special guest today, and that will be Ms. Michelle George of Fulton County Animal Services. Welcome, Ms. George.
Hello.
Tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do there, what your job title is, and what you do for Fulton County Animal Services and the community.
Okay, so I'm currently the acting field support manager, and what that entitles is we have a team of field officers that go out in the field and handle calls related to ordinance violations and stray animals and things of that sort. And so in the background, we are pulling calls that come in through E911 and relaying that information to our shelter and staff so that they have access to what the officers are doing in the field and notes that they can follow up on for the animals that come into our care. In addition to that, I have 2 other staff members that work with me, and any type of paperwork that the officers have to issue, we are kind of responsible for getting that information in the system and the different agencies that work along with us. That's my current role. I have done everything from kennel tech to adoptions, customer service, then plain dispatch before E911 started taking our calls.
You've been there a while.
Absolutely.
I don't think they could run it without you.
They have allowed me to learn a lot that I may not have known when I first got here. I've been able to kind of move around and learn the different aspects of animal care and welfare.
How long have you been with Fulton County Animal Services?
Since 2002.
Oh, wow.
2012. I have a background in security. Coming out of security, I was in school at one point for nursing and started working with the shelter and kind of been here since then.
Do you work with both shelters and DCAB and as well as Fulton?
I don't work with DCAB. I do have knowledge of their operations. So I'm well versed with our database operations, which is Chameleon for us and Pet Point for them.
Okay. Just for our listeners, could you let them know where these facilities are located?
So Fulton is right in the Northwest Atlanta area. We're right off of Marietta Boulevard and Donnelly Hollowell in the Beltline. We also have locations, a spay neuter clinic / satellite location in College Park. Currently, we have a satellite location, which is the old Atlanta Humane Society. We have that as LifeLine Midtown, and we have the DeKalb facility, which we run the actual shelter, and we have the community animal clinic that's right at the 285-85 junction.
Okay, I understand that we've been blessed finally with a new facility coming up what is it, next year?
Hopefully, they've already broke ground on it, and they are currently working on that facility.
Okay, what are the capacities of these facilities as far as how many pets you can hold?
So Fulton currently was designed to hold 80 dogs when they first built it over 30 years ago. So right now we are definitely over capacity. I'm not exactly sure with the number of animals that the cab can currently hold, but I do know that they do have a newer facility than we have.
Right.
So space right now is limited, so we are definitely awaiting the new shelter.
Okay. Yeah, and also, our clients, we issue rabies certificates to our clients, especially with those in Fulton County. And as you know, they're required to send in for their tags. On the unaltered pets is $25 and the altered pets is $10. I'm assuming that's still the same. And our clients ask us all the time, why do we have to send money for this? I mean, can you explain to them what those funds go toward?
So those the license tags, they go through pet data for the most part. They can get their tags through the shelter, but I believe that any tags are put back into when we get those funds for tags, they're put back into the budget to help out with the animals that we care for.
Correct. Okay, so basically it goes to help run, because you're a nonprofit, is that right?
That is correct.
So yeah, we do need some help with that. And again, when I talk to my clients, I just kind of say, hey, listen, this is kind of like getting that new sticker on your car every year. Okay, you want to make sure that you stay current because rabies is a serious disease, so we got to make sure we keep up with that. I remember years ago we used to do rabies clinics all the time. We don't. It's not necessary to do that anymore because people I think they get it. The other thing too is I understand you have a temporary shelter because at this point you're not taking any pets, correct?
Right. We recently had an outbreak of dog flu or canine influenza. Right. And so it kind of limits our capability at bringing animals into the shelter because we have to quarantine. And so with the satellite facilities, that kind of allows us to bring new animals in without having to expose them to the dogs that are currently under quarantine for, canine influenza, and trying to get those dogs healthy enough to where we can come out of the quarantine and, resume normal daily activities of, taking dogs in and hopefully getting them either back home to their owners or adopted out, fostered, or rescued.
Yeah, and that's an important point. A lot of my clients, for some reason, I say, well, listen, if you don't have the resource to take care of the pet, when you could, we say, well, take them to animal control. Oh, no, they're going to put them down. I'm trying to explain to them that this is a no-kill shelter. Is that correct?
We have reached no-kill status, and we do everything possible in order to not have to euthanize an animal. We have a behavior team. We are constantly going over pets to see if we can, again, get them back into the home. Whatever resources we can provide for an owner to keep them out of the shelter, we definitely will. We want to kind of make this the last resort for an owner if they have to bring them here. And then there are times that when we have pets that come into the shelter and an owner can't possibly take care of them, we may be able to arrange short-term foster for them if possible, or other capabilities. If it's something that they just need, like maybe a crate, a doghouse runner, we can kind of get that to them in a quick time frame.
Oh, okay, great. Are you able to recommend any support groups or groups that will take dogs in and adopt them out?
So we have a rescue team here as well.
Okay.
So we do, again, we work with rescues here. We work with fosters. Our foster team does a lot to help with, our rescuing capabilities, because sometimes we have to have the dogs out of the shelter for 2 weeks in order to actually get them into a rescue to help, with the adoptions. We have a transport team. I've also transported in the past, and it's one of the best things that I like about this job. If we had a full-time transport team, I would definitely sign up for it as soon as possible, because we have an overabundance, of animals here in the area, and not enough people to come in and adopt at times.
Yeah, we've been, inundated ourselves over the years, and we've probably adopted out at least 15 or 20 pets ourselves. And I get it, because sometimes we have clients that come to us, and for some reason or another they disappear on us, so we're stuck with the dog, or the cat for that matter. And I'll give you one example. We had one guy could drive up on a motorcycle, had this little kitten, probably 4 weeks old, covered with fleas, missing it, half an ear. This kind of thing. We nursed that thing back to help. And I tell you, this was the hardest adoption I had to make, because this cat fell in love with me and I fell in love with her, and I didn't want to let her go. However, I do have a friend, his wife has lupus, and she needed a support cat. She just lost her. So that kind of worked out pretty well. And I'm glad of that. But let's get back to the canine influenza, just for our listeners, so that they understand. Canine influenza is a viral respiratory infection that is highly contagious. I think that we probably first noticed this disease between 1999 and 2004, and that was basically in greyhounds in Florida. I believe is where we first noticed it. We also saw it in racing dogs up in New York. Fortunately, it's not widespread. There is a vaccine for it that is fairly effective, but not as effective as all the rest of them. And you guys, I know you're giving antibiotics to these dogs, and I want the listeners to understand antibiotics is not going to cure them of the influenza. What it does, though, it keeps all the other actors from getting involved, the bacteria that may cause pneumonia. So I believe you're using azithromycin now.
I believe that is the course of antibiotics that our vet team has put in place for the dogs that we currently have in our care.
All right. So, and again, the reason why you can't accept any more patients is because of that. And I understand that even before that, we had some respiratory issues that need to be addressed. And I think with the new facility, I think you're going to be able to probably get rid of most of that. And people need to understand that shelter medicine is totally different from, boarding at a boarding facility or going to a vet's office, because you have no idea where these pets have been. And quite often, it's an old saying that said, 90% of your problems is bought and paid for. So if you've got a set of pets in your home already and you introduce a new pet, it's always a good idea to quarantine that new pet for 2 to 4 weeks, just to make sure, because a lot of times they're carrying disease that you can't see. All right, and it won't be evident until later, correct?
That is correct. We vaccinate upon intake, but it takes some time for those vaccinations to become effective. And so if they are harboring, any number of illnesses that could be communicable either to the other animals or to the people that are caring for them, we don't know that until those pets start displaying symptoms or the people start displaying symptoms. So it's something that we, combat on a daily basis.
Yeah. And I've noticed some of this myself. I've had several people come in that actually they boarded at other facilities, and they're coming in coughing, and we're thinking it's, the regular mycoplasma, pneumovirus, T, kennel cough kind of conditions. And they normally clear up pretty fast. And, you're looking at 7-10 days. But these dogs are ongoing coughing almost up to 30 days, which is usually indicative of canine influenza. It usually takes a little bit longer for them to get rid of that cough. And that's kind of what we're seeing. Hopefully when you get into that new facility, you'll have areas where you can quarantine and give them separate area and all that kind of things. Is that right?
That is correct. It should be built out to have ISO areas, in areas where we move those out once, a certain time period has lapsed, into where they can go into a regular area where dogs are housed to, go up for adoption and things like that.
Okay. All right. And what is the adoption fees now?
So I believe our current adoption promotion is $23. I want to say is what I've seen, but our actual adoption fees never raised over $85 for dogs and $65 for cats.
And what does that include?
Spay and neuter, age appropriate vaccinations. They get an adoption packet, and then we may have like donations and stuff that can go with the animals as well.
Okay, super. Are you adopting? Do you have cats in the facility as well?
We do have cats on site. We also have cats at again at our community animal center. With the cats in Fulton County, because cats are typically free to roam, we do also SNR, which is spay and neuter the animal and return them to the area they came from. So if they're age appropriate, where they can get a vaccination and all the other age appropriate vaccinations, they can be spayed and neutered and returned to the area that they come from, especially if they're feral. If there's an indicator that the cats have come from an actual home or are friendly enough to adopt out, then they can be adopted out.
Well, I'm learning something today. I didn't know you did that. Because I know we have a situation where people have, and I guess people need to understand that a lot of people get caught up with having too many cats and they can't understand why. And here's one reason why. They need to understand that once a cat has a set of kittens, then they can come in the heat 10 days later. And then at that point, they can get pregnant again. So they can be pregnant and nursing kittens at the same time. And not only that, cats are pretty good about not missing it. If they're bred, they're pregnant. Okay. So then these people end up with all these, cats and can't figure out why this is happening. This is the one thing our listeners need to understand, that cats can get pregnant 10 days after they give birth. And so you need to get them spayed or neutered as soon as possible. And do you do that there?
We do. So if the residents are able to bring cats in to the shelter, if they trap them, if they're healthy, if they're sick or injured, our officers will actually go out and pick them up and bring them in. And once if we're able to save them, depending on what their injuries are or what their sickness is, once they are back to health, then they are spayed and neutered and returned.
Oh, okay, sounds good. Now, what should we advise our clients in terms of if they, and we've probably been over, I just want to make sure I understand that if they have, let's say they find $2 or $3 running down the street and they pick them up and they don't know what to do with them, what do you recommend that they do?
They can always call into field services, which again, currently E911 takes our calls. So depending on where they're at, if they call in, we can come out and pick them up. We do have resources online if they want to friendly finder. They can bring the pet in, we can vaccinate it, take its picture, they take it back. And if the owner is able to be located in their neighborhood, they can return it to them there, or they can decide if they want to adopt it after that stray hold period is up, they can adopt it. We have other programs as well. So a lot of the resources they can actually see online. So if they don't want to particularly turn the pet into the shelter, they don't absolutely have to. They can just go online and contact us either online or by phone in order to get whatever resources they need to either get the dog returned back home or bring it in, maybe friendly finder it out, foster it, or adopt it. Start the adoption process as soon as it comes in. We do a pre-adoption. We do those. And what that does is it says, okay, that person comes in, they decide that, hey, I want to, go through that adoption process. They go ahead and pay the fee. And if that dog is not reclaimed by its owner, once the stray hold period is out, we spay or neuter the animal, give it its vaccinations, and they pick up. If the dog is reclaimed by its owner, then we will return their adoption fee to them or allow them to put that adoption fee towards another pet.
Oh, great. I understand our second guest is with us now. I believe we have Trey. Trey, are you there?
Yes, sir. How are you doing today, Dr. Tolbert?
I'm fine. How are you doing?
I'm doing well.
Okay. Listen, we're glad you could be with us today. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do at LifeLine and what your duties are?
Yes, sir. So I'm currently the Director of Field Services at Fulton County Animal Services. Oversee the field services aspect of the contract. So I am Michelle's direct supervisor. So I'm in charge of field support as well as the animal control officers. So I'm tasked with a lot of different duties and a lot of different staff members.
Yeah, they keep you busy, don't they?
Yes, sir. They definitely do.
Okay, what else do you do?
So I'm also am the person who pretty much reviews over the cases and make recommendations based off of those cases, whether a dog should be declared as a public nuisance, a dangerous animal. I also am tasked with some of the court prep. So court prep, including filing motions within the court to have animals either dispositioned out into a rescue or allow them to go back to the owners as long as we have consent from the prosecutor.
Right. Well, I served on a dangerous animal board for years. I don't know if that's still functioning. I haven't heard from them in a while. So I'm assuming that at this point, basically what you do is you make some determinations and turn it over to the court system. Is that right?
Yes, sir. So our currently our appeals are no longer held with our animal welfare board. They're currently held in our probate court. So a probate judge is actually listening to our court cases. It makes the process a lot easier. It also makes the process a lot faster when it comes to making those determinations. Just because the court system is very responsive when it comes to those type of appeals. Usually, you know, if we have an appeal, we usually can get it scheduled right immediately. So that's what makes it a lot easier.
Yeah,
You know.
sounds good. And I guess the other thing too is people wonder, there are leash laws that they have to be followed, and dogs that are off leash or without a rabies tags, what can owners expect, you know, if that's something that they are caught up with?
So an owner can face a citation for a dog at large. Not only will they receive a citation for the dog at large or the animal without a leash, they will also receive a citation for no Fulton County license if they are found without a license as well. And just because animal control doesn't physically see that violation, if we have proof and we have a complainant that's willing to move forward and testify in court as a witness for that case, we also can write a citation. So it does not have to be animal control that physically witnessed that violation.
Gotcha. And what are the penalties for that?
The penalties can all range from just a simple fine. It also can range from a fine to a court, some type of course that they would have to take on responsible pet ownership. That explains the liability of having your dog off a leash. Explains the liability of what can happen if your dog is involved in a bite because it's off a leash. And it also can ultimately determine if an animal is declared as a public nuisance. A lot of folks don't know, but if an animal is caught in Fulton County without a leash 3 or more times, it can be considered as a public nuisance, which adds extra parameters to the animal and the animal owner. So that violation is then considered as a serious matter. And a lot of folks also don't realize is if their animal is continuously at large and their animal does bite someone, if that bite has occurred to someone, they can be charged with reckless conduct charges just because they know that their animal has the propensity to not only bite someone, but has the propensity to be at large.
Gotcha.
Same thing, if it bites another animal, it can be considered as animal cruelty as well.
Oh, wow. And I didn't know you offered do you offer those courses or you send them somewhere else?
No, so we actually partner with our prosecutor's office, along with us, partners with a system that's called animalcourts.com. And that's where we send all of our defendants in court cases to the website to complete that course. And they are required to pay for that course out of pocket. And they will have to pay it directly to those folks. So it's not included into their probation fees or court fees. So that cost of that course will not be able to be reduced in any sort of kind of way.
And you mentioned also if this dog happens to bite someone, what are the procedures that have to be followed? I know we have to do some type of quarantine, is that right?
Yeah, so if an animal bite does occur, the animal does have to quarantine for 10 days from the day of the initial bite. It depends on if the animal is vaccinated or not. If the animal is not vaccinated, the animal will have to be impounded and either quarantine at our local animal shelter or at a veterinarian of the animal owner's choice, but will not be eligible for a in-home quarantine.
Well, if they're not vaccinated for rabies, isn't the quarantine period longer?
No, so not for a human on human bite, only if there is a domestic on domestic bite or a domestic on wildlife bite.
Gotcha. Okay, what's quarantine for domestic on wildlife?
So domestic on wildlife, if the animal is not if the animal is not vaccinated and it is exposed to wildlife, it would be a 6-month quarantine.
Right.
If the animal is vaccinated, and if the vaccine is even expired within the past 3 years, if it's been within the past 3 years, it'll be a 45-day quarantine. And those quarantines are strict isolation, so they cannot have any contact with any sorts of other animals, even if they live within the household, as well as other humans. So they would actually have to be locked in a cage or a crate inside the house, inside a locked room, away from everyone else and any other object.
Right. The other thing, and this is something I encounter a lot when people bring me pets that have been attacked by other dogs. And it's sad, to say that, that a lot of times these injuries are very serious. They require surgery, and it runs into, a phenomenal amount of money sometimes. And they'll come to me and say, well, the person's dog was attacked, they're going to pay for it. And unfortunately, I have to tell them, listen, this is something that you have to take care of and go back to that person. What legal avenues that they have, to get their money back when some other dog, causes injury to theirs? Or is there any revenue?
Right. Well, first I would ask the community that anytime that there is an animal incident, no matter if it's small, big, or large, please report it. The reason why it's crucial to reporting it is because there's sometimes that we may come across a second or third incident that has occurred with that animal that we cannot do anything about those first 2 incidents. And it may also change the determination of what's going on with this third incident if the first 2 or the first incident was never reported. So we always ask people to report the incident, no matter if you don't want to file charges against that person right then and there, or you working with it, just to make some sort of record that this has occurred. And even if you guys have worked it out amongst one another, just still report it. But the way that you can proceed with any type of reimbursement for payment, if you were to obtain a vet bill, is you have multiple different ways. You can either go through that civilly through the civil court, and either file a small claims if it's under the requirements, or you would have to go on the larger claim side. Or you can contact animal control and wish to request for a citation to be issued. Once that citation has been issued, if it's a dog-on-dog attack, then it'd be considered as just a nuisance charge. And what will happen is once the court case is heard in court, the prosecutor will reach out to that individual who's considered as the victim dog owner, and require all the documentation as far as receipts, any type of documentation that they receive from the vets, to ensure that they receive that reimbursement back, whether it's through restitution, paid directly through the court, or if it's paid directly to the defendant based off of the court order. But those are most of the 2 choices that avenues that someone can go upon. A lot of times we do have where neighbors may say, hey, I'll go ahead and pay for it. And we tell them we understand that they may go ahead and pay for it and understand that you may not want citations issued, but, draft a contract so you have some type of leverage to go off of when it comes to that person stating that they're going to pay you back in agreement with, whatever verbal agreement that they may came.
Or at least get it taped or get a video or something like that, just to show proof.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. And have you encountered a lot of those incidents in the past?
So unfortunately we have, we also run into a lot of incidents where people will, pretty much try to be neighborly and work it out amongst each other. And then by the third incident, we receive a call and say, this dog is just a nuisance to the neighborhood. It's very dangerous. This dog has attacked 5 other people. And unfortunately, animal control really can't do anything about that incident because that incident was never reported. Right. And now all of a sudden, 2 years down the line, we're dealing with another incident and they're now want to report it. We really can't do anything about that. And our number one job is public safety, and public safety is whether it's dealing with the human or dealing with another animal.
Right.
And we need to make sure that we uphold our public safety standards. So that's why I tell everyone to report the incident, even if it's small, even if it's something minor that you guys are still working out amongst each other, just report it, because the simple fact, it will make a huge difference along down the line if there is another incident that does occur.
Yeah, I know you keep good records, because I know I got some calls about one of my pets, and that pet has been deceased for what, almost 7 years, but you still got him on on the roll. So yeah, I appreciate y'all keeping those type of records. The other thing too is, since we're talking about all this, either you or Michelle, while we have for our listeners, could you give them some information, website information, whatever, where they can reach out to you to address these issues that we've been talking about?
Yep. So the number one way to reach out and get in contact with us is for you to contact Fulton County Animal Services directly. The number is 404-613-0358. Again, 404-613-0358. And it will be extension 2 to reach field services. And that extension is used for reporting any sort of animal related concerns, whether it's animal cruelty, whether it's just a simple neglect call, whether it's just speaking to an animal control officer, or filing a report involving a dog bite, whether it's a dog on dog attack or a dog on human bite.
Now I understand that, sometimes I didn't realize this when I started making calls to you guys earlier in the year, that a lot of times it'll go to the 911 system, and which one of those extensions that will take you to?
Yep, so that's extension 2. That will take you to Fulton County Emergency Services, who is our dispatchers. They will place the call into what we call our computer automatic dispatch system, and that would dispatch an officer to that residence. We just ask that the community be very patient when it comes to the dispatchers, because they are also answering 911 calls. They come in directly through 911 as well as through other police agencies. So just please be patient. If you are placed on hold, that is unfortunately, that is an issue that's around the country when it comes to staffing. So just be diligent and be patient when it comes to speaking to our dispatchers. And also, a lot of our dispatchers aren't very familiar when it comes to animal breeds and different terminology that, people that may own animals actually know. Because not everyone owns an animal. So just be patient if the dispatch does ask for, for you to repeat, the dog breed, to actually spell the dog breed out, or anything this nature to that. Because, like I said, not everyone's an animal lover, and not everyone is a animal owner.
Right.
So just be patient and diligent with them.
Well, is this the way it's going to be from now on, or is this going to change when you get into the new facility?
No, so for the foreseeable future, this will still continue to be the same way. The reason being is because, a lot of times when it comes to our calls, if it's specifically like a dog bite, that's mainly the reason why. If there's a dog bite, emergency services can dispatch everyone at the same exact time. So if there's an animal control officer that's already on another call, as well as our backup units already on another priority call, and it's a serious matter where police can respond out and deal with it immediately. They can dispatch the police out as well as dispatch fire and EMS out all at the same exact time.
Okay.
So to keep that a lot more universal, where say if we had our own internal dispatch, we would have to pick up the phone, call into 911 just like a normal regular everyday person would have to, and then they would have to transfer the calls to another agency. This keeps it very centralized and keep it very fast moving for a faster response.
I'll tell you one thing though, and I've had some complaints from my clients about that system, and I guess the thing is that, and it goes back to when I used to train animal control officers. I used to work on the horses downtown, on the carriage horses, and I had to come in and help train the officers about that. I think it would be helpful if those 911 dispatchers had some type of training as far as animals go, because I've had people come in and say, well, listen, I called and we went to that 911 dispatcher and I'm reporting a dog that's loose in the neighborhood. So they're asking for the reporter's address as to where this is, correct?
Right, correct.
Well, next thing you know, the next day, here comes the animal control officer coming to the person who reported the incident, and they're telling them, we understand that you got a complaint that your dog is running loose. So from dispatch to you guys, something went wrong.
Well,
Okay. It was just a total miscommunication. So they're accusing the person who reported the incident of having dogs running loose when this is the one who's reporting it.
Right, and we have actually fixed that since then. But unfortunately, sometimes a lot of folks don't actually know the physical address of where the animal is, or the location of the animal. So sometimes what they'll do is 911 will receive the call. They'll input the information in as the complaint's address and put later down in the notes that, hey, it's the house that's on the corner, 3 doors down. The complainant wasn't able to provide an exact address because our addresses are populated into the computer automatic dispatch system as GIS verified. So what that means is that if there's an address that's input into that dispatch system that's not registered as an actual address, 911 won't be able to put that information into that call into the system. So they will have to use some sort of physical address and provide the directions into the notes of where to respond out to.
All right, sounds good.
You know, and sometimes it can be a nuisance for our officers because a lot of times our officers are responding to about 70 calls a day, Michelle. So, you know, when we're responding out to 70 calls a day, first thing we see is the priority type of call and the address, and we're going to shoot right over there to try to, you know, respond out to the call as fast as possible. And sometimes our officers may miss the further direction that's inside the call. And sometimes, you know, the notes do come in a little bit later. We may originally see the first note that says, hey, it's a brown and white pit bull that's running loose, that's acting aggressive. Our officers are going to respond to that right away. And then later on, we might go back to the notes and say, hey, There actually was another note that was added in there that said, hey, this actually was not the address, but it was 3 doors down, because they're going to obtain the pertinent information first, which is, you know, the dog is acting aggressive. This is a description of the dog before they enter in those notes that, hey, this is the actual address if they weren't able to obtain the actual address from the complainant.
Excellent, excellent. Also, your website address, where can we locate you on the website?
Yep, so you can find us at FultonAnimalServices.com. Again, FultonAnimalServices.com. You'll be able to find all sorts of resources, such as the services that we provide as Fulton Animal Services, as well as any type of information in reference to registering your dog, or if you would like to relinquish your pet or give up your pet. You can also go to our page on our website and find where the link that says give up a pet. But most importantly, if you found or if you've lost a pet, please definitely go to that website and post all the information on there. We can get that information to our website and our partner websites fast as ever before the animal control officer even responds out there. You never know that, you know, someone may be missing a pet in your community, and that would be the first place they'll go, and they'll see that you have posted it, and they can actually retrieve that pet from you versus having to come all the way down to the shelter to pick up that pet. And the same thing with Nextdoor. I know a lot of folks are on Nextdoor and Facebook groups.
Yes. Please,
please, please, before you even call animal control, if you found a pet, go on your Nextdoor pages, go on your Facebook pages, post the animal on there and give it some time, you know, 24 hours, 48 hours before, you know, calling us, because a lot of times our shelters are overcrowded. And that's the best way to not only keep our population down, but keep our disease down. Fulton Animal Services has a duty in picking up stray animals, but we ask for the community's help in helping us, relieve some of that stress from the shelter by caring for all of those animals. If it's just a simple neighbor that's 3 doors down that you didn't know that had a pet, but now you know because you've actually taken that extra step and posted it onto, you know, your neighborhood community pages.
Right, we're trying to be helpful to that as well, because like I say, a lot of times people turn their pets to us, and you'll be surprised, we actually remember a lot of these pets that drop off, and it's just a matter of us trying to come up with the owner's name, and also, and I think our listeners need to be aware of this, that if your pet has a microchip on him, it's more likely than not you're gonna get your pet back. Just about every shelter veterinarian has a reader, and they can read that thing and get and actually find the person who owns the pet. Especially if you keep them your registration up to date every year. All right, so we have come across a lot of that as well. We've actually united one pet owner where a pet was found here, and the owner was in Florida. And they actually drove all the way up here to get their pet back. Another situation, one was lost in East Point. And I think that one was on the news, but this lady was nice enough to turn them in, got the microchip going, and they got reunited that way. And the same thing that happened when Katrina came through New Orleans. Anybody had a microchip on their pet, undoubtedly usually got them back. So I can't stress enough to the audience that yes, microchip your pet at all costs if you want to make sure that they stay safe. It's not a low jack, but it'll at least let everybody know once you get them scanned, you know, who they belong to, and is more likely than not, you can get reunited.
Right, correct. And even if you contact Fulton County Animal Services and say, hey, I just registered my pet with the microchip, here's the microchip number, we're able to update that in our system. Just so we can be able to get that animal back to you while we're still out in the field versus you having to come to the shelter. You know, sometimes depending on the, you know, the time frame of when you come to the shelter, you wait 7 days, the animal may not be there. The animal may already be adopted or pre-adopted. So we ask everyone to microchip your animal as well as to license your animal because license is a requirement and a regulation within Fulton County. And when you send in that registration paperwork for your license, you can add that information for your microchip. And that's a free way that you've set up there and registered your microchip as well.
So you put it on the registration for the rabies certificate?
Right, correct.
Okay.
So also, we also are able to return dogs home if they are licensed and they have their license on. And microchipping, we do offer microchipping at the shelter for $25, and it's registered at the time as well through
cool.
24 Pet Watch.
Great information. All right. I'm going to let my receptionist know about all this because this is new information for me as well. So, hey, I'm going to make sure I get my microchip number to my pets to you as soon as possible.
Most definitely.
Now, if they're already registered, how do I get that information to you? Because I didn't put it on there when I registered the first time.
So you can either send it into our pet help email address that's located on our website. I cannot honestly tell you exactly what the address is, but if you go to our website, fultonanimalservices.com, and click on our contact us link, there is a email address that you can email that information to, and we'll be able to update that information into our computer system.
Oh, okay. Thanks. Michelle, got anything else you need to add?
That's it.
Well, listen,
I just have one thing to add, Dr. Tolbert.
Yes, sir.
If anyone, if anyone has a homeowners association or a neighborhood association that they would like Fulton Animal Services to come out and speak with the residents about, please feel free to do so. You can go to our website again, fultonanimalservices.com, click on our contact us and send an email. That email will get forwarded over to me, and I'll make sure that an animal control officer responds out to that neighborhood or myself to speak with the owners and educate them on what is the expectation of the law within Fulton County. I hate to be on the other end of the conversation when it actually becomes a violation, so we can eliminate that by providing that information early.
Right.
That'd be a huge help to not only the community but as well as the dog owner as well.
Yeah. Do you have any flyers or information that I can pass along to my clients, about some of the things that we talked about today? I guess my main thing is we need to get the word out because they still believe that animal control, if they send that pet to animal control, that they're going to be put down. So is there some kind of way that we can get everyone around here to understand that, hey, this is a no-kill shelter? Is there any way we can, any information that I can distribute to my clients for that purpose?
Absolutely. So what I can do is I can package up some paraphernalia for you and send it over to you. But I want everyone to come to the understanding that you definitely can tell that Fulton County Animal Services as well as DeKalb Animal Services is not a no-kill shelter. Just because historically you go back and look at the data, Fulton Animal Services never had as many animals as we've had in our care ever before. Right. So that is just a small, a small tidbit to show that we're not euthanizing any animals and no animals will be euthanized. We're almost up to 400 animals in our care. And at the end of the day, if we were euthanizing animals, it would be a number that is far below half of, the population that we have now. So we're doing everything in our power and our due diligence to ensure that even the animals that, may come in as an aggressive animal or a sick animal, they're receiving that rehabilitation so that they can be able to be rehomed, whether that's rehomed in a rescue or rehomed in someone else's home within, the state of Georgia. But either way, our biggest thing is to make sure the animals get homes, and that home is not heaven. That home is in someone's house.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the other thing too, and I was thinking about, 'cause I remember that those numbers went way up, especially when we were in the Gulf War. Anytime we send our troops overseas, that a lot of them can't take them with them, so they had to surrender them. I'm pretty sure that you also had those numbers increase during COVID.
Absolutely.
Simply because they couldn't take care of their pets, they got sick, or all those people that actually died from COVID, they had to go somewhere.
Absolutely, absolutely. The biggest thing is homelessness right now when it comes to Fulton County, and that's why our pet population is so large in our shelters, because the simple fact that a lot of people can't afford to keep their pets in the home. They can't afford the pet rent. They can't afford the pet deposit. And a lot of these apartment complexes or property management companies, aren't allowing pets in their houses. And I just ask that any of the property managers, any of the property owners, just please keep an open mind when it comes to pets. Pets are not only just pets, but they're family members, they're resources to those individuals.
Mm-hmm.
You always can look at the opportunity of looking into pet liability insurance as an extra requirement for the owner. But just please stay open-minded when it comes to allowing your residents or your renters to have pets, just because, our shelters can't hold the capacities, any further if we continue to have a homelessness, social issue at the end of the day. And, I'm always willing to speak with the property owners. I'm always willing to speak with the not renters, but the property managers to come up with various ideas to become a lot more open-minded when it comes to allowing pets,
Right.
because there's other avenues and there's other ways than just banning or having breed restrictions on pets, because we know at the end of the day, I've been in this career 10 years, and I can honestly say the smaller breeds are sometimes the more vicious breeds than the bigger breeds. So, we can't discriminate against breeds just because of the breed at the end of the day.
Yeah, the number one biting dog in America is the dachshund, people believe it or not.
Yeah.
So why was the number 2? Okay.
Exactly.
There's one other thing I want to mention too, and I guess we ought to send out our prayers to all those people that had experienced the tornadoes last night.
Absolutely.
A lot of people lost their homes down in Griffin, I know, also in LaGrange. They really got wild. Selma, Alabama. When these type of things happen, tornadoes, hurricanes, a lot of these people are losing their homes, and they lose their pets as well sometimes, and in fires, as a matter of fact. So, a lot of times they get separated, and either the owners, unfortunately are killed, or they become homeless and they can't take care of the pets that way. I understand that, Humane Society has done a lot of rescuing during those disasters. They do have a system in place with GEMA, to help take care of not only the people that lose their homes and have gone through these natural disasters, but to also see about, collecting those pets and making sure that they're safe. And I must understand, do you do the same thing?
Correct. The thing about it is our number one priority at the end of the day is to keep pets in the home. And we can be that safety net program where, if you're dealing with a difficult time and you still want to keep your pet, we can link you up with fosters or potential people just to safety net your pet during that time that you're going through, whether it's, a hardship financially, whether it's a hardship from you losing your household from some type of disaster. At the end of the day, we are going to be that resource for you, and we'd rather be a resource for you and the shelter be the last resort.
Okay, great. Well, listen, you have any other comments or any other training programs that you have available before we go this afternoon?
No, sir, not for me.
Okay, Michelle?
No, I do not.
Okay. Well, listen, we appreciate both of you coming on the show today. You've given us a lot of good information, and hopefully we'll be able to continue to work together. We've done over the years to make sure these pets stay in the home and provide services to the community. Thanks once again for joining us. And this is WCEG Radio, Dr. Ronald Tolbert on Pause Sensitive with our guest Trey and Michelle. Thank you very much for coming on. Have a great day.
Thank you.